On this March 8th morning, or afternoon or evening, depending on when you're catching the show, we thank you for being here. Real Talk special edition today. It's International Women's Day, and we bring you back-to-back Real Talk roundtables here in studio as we kickstart some of the conversations that we know need to be happening, some of the conversations already happening that maybe we can dig a little bit deeper into. Of course, there's a lot of ground to cover when you talk about International Women's Day. I saw someone wondering aloud this morning on their social media platform, do I say Happy International Women's Day? We're going to ask our leadoff panel in just a second, and I know that their message will move you. If you're watching us live on YouTube right now, you can see that theme that's been put out, that's being amplified by the United Nations today is digital. For International Women's Day, join United Nations women, United Nations, generally speaking, in celebrating under the theme digital. We're talking about innovation and technology for gender equality. We're going to feature in about a half hour from now an aviation roundtable, women in aviation. And I know that the stories are going to inspire you, but we're also going to talk about some of the work that's, quite frankly, not being done, that's not being accomplished, what still needs to happen. But we lead off today with, I think, a wake-up call for a lot of people in the country, including right here in Alberta. There's been a lot of talk about a $68 billion provincial budget. Finance Minister Travis Taves released it last week. A lot of talk about spending, a lot of talk about big increases ahead of an election coming up at the end of May. Post-secondary institutions, some of them anyway, are seeing big bumps up in healthcare. But there are some pretty big files that did not see increases, and when you wrap inflation and increased need into the mix, they're actually struggling to provide the services this year like they have in years past. Joining us live in studio, it's my pleasure to welcome former mayor of Edmonton. She's now the executive director of the Alberta Council of Women's Shelters, Jan Reimer. It's nice to see you again. Thanks for making time for us, Jan.
Great to be here, and thanks for having us.
Of course. Marla Poelzer is here with the Jessica Martel Memorial Foundation. Marla, welcome to Real Talk.
Thank you. Good morning.
And a longtime friend of mine, she's also a domestic violence survivor, Candice Ryan. Can I say, when we started talking about putting this panel together, I had a moment where my heart stopped beating in my chest for a second because you and I have known each other through the entertainment industry for probably a decade.
Definitely a decade.
People have seen you singing all over the place, including the national anthem, before many National Hockey League games and so many other performance venues. I had no idea about some of the things that were happening with you and to you behind the scenes.
Yeah, not a lot of people did. I mean, I didn't broadcast abuse, and that's something that needs to be talked about a lot more, is the stigma behind it, the taboo subjects, that how many people are going through it. And I just want to raise awareness that, you know, just because somebody has a smile on their face out in public doesn't mean that they are hurting behind closed doors. Well,
I'm so grateful. It shows a great deal of courage for you to be in here talking about this and talking about your personal story. And I'm really thankful that you're here. And on behalf of the audience, thanks for being here.
Thanks for having us.
We're going to get into it in a second, and we're going to be touching on this from a number of different angles. But Jan, let me ask you the question that I saw a friend asking aloud on Twitter today. Do I say Happy International Women's Day?
Why not? I mean, let's celebrate being women, and some places in the world, they actually have a public holiday. So it's a good thing to celebrate, but it's also time to pause, and it's to actually do what you just did, Ryan, and that's to honor the courage of survivors who have, you know, had that courage to address domestic violence. What we know is everybody knows somebody, they just may not know of it. And I think your story really reflects that. So we really want to honor the courage of women who are living that, and also those women who are living with the fallout of that really for the rest of their lives.
Yeah.
And we also want to honor people like Marla, who is on the front line in women's shelters, and all the women's shelters work for the they're doing such amazing work and often are not recognized. So let's celebrate the work that they do and the courage that they show.
Well, we endeavor every single day to learn something something on this show. We hope to amplify stories that need to be amplified, to understand more about the stories that we're seeing around us. And Jan, in just a second, I know that you're expecting this. I want to get a little bit political with you. That's part of your job. That's part of your role. There seems to be a bit of a standoff right now with the provincial government and a lot of the social services. And I want to ask you to comment on that. But Marla, as mentioned, you're here on behalf of your leadership role at the Jessica Martel Memorial Foundation. Jessica's name will resonate with many people, but maybe not all. For those that didn't know Jessica Martel, can you tell us her story?
I sure can. So Jessica was a young mother who was murdered in 2009 by her intimate partner in front of their 3 children. Jessica, died. I mean, she was murdered on the day that she was trying to leave. So, when women are fleeing abuse, or when people are fleeing abuse, they're definitely at a higher risk of increased violence and homicide. And in Jessica's case, she was murdered. So that's how the Jessica Martel Memorial Foundation came to be. Obviously it was a very traumatic experience for her family and the community as a whole. And so her mother, Lynn Rosiechuck, and her family started the foundation in 2012 to honor Jessica's life, and really to honor her children's life as well. And so in 2020 we opened Jesse's House. We're one of the newer shelters in Alberta, and that's how we're here.
So you're operating Jesse's House. I want to show people. Sure. Most people hear this on the podcast, so we'll describe what happens. But I want to show people what happens when someone's searching for the Jessica Martel Memorial Foundation. I think this says a lot. This, you know exactly what I'm about to say. If people go to jessicamartelmemorialfoundation.com, they're greeted with some resources here. The 1-866 number for the crisis or helpline. That's 1-866-939-2850, by the way. You say, until all homes are safe, there's Jesse's House. If you're navigating domestic violence, we can support you. And then at the bottom of the page, there's this big red button that says exit site. And when I click on that, it immediately takes me to Google, and there's no back arrow. It doesn't show where I was before. Let's not assume that this is obvious why this is necessary.
Yeah, we definitely have to put those safety measures in place. So if someone, does look us up, we definitely don't want, an abuser, if they're walking into the room, we definitely don't want somebody to, notice what someone's doing on the computer. So that's why we have that safety feature in place. And then obviously we don't want you to be able to do a history search on what's been looked at. So, that is to protect women's safety.
So there's things that we won't talk about, like the location of the house and some of the identifying details. But what can you tell us about the need right now, about the number of people that are utilizing the services right now, and maybe what you're looking at or forecasting over the next while?
For sure. So I can say that Jesse's House is in rural Alberta. So we're located about 20 minutes outside of Edmonton. And even being in a rural Alberta, we're definitely busy. So in 2021, we had 249 people come into Jesse's House. And in 2022, that number went up to 410. Right. So yeah, it's quite shocking. And that includes 212, adults and 198 children. We are an all-gender shelter, so we also support men, and in that number includes 24 men and their children. And then we also support, gender diverse individuals, so that includes 11 people who identify as transgender. So that's just coming into the shelter. In terms of our crisis and intake line, we answered 2,094 calls. So we're quite busy on the phone as well. And sometimes that's people just reaching out for help, trying to understand, their situation. Not everybody is looking to come into shelter right away or whatever. So, that is just general support.
But that's like 2,100 calls a year?
Yeah.
So that's like 7 pretty serious phone calls a day. It's about a phone call an hour.
Yes. Yeah. I think when we did the stats, I think it equaled to like 28,000 minutes on the phone or something. Wow. So it's quite a lot. And we operate 24 hours a day. So, that's all day.
Right.
And then included in that, our numbers are 1,285 adults and 1,011 children were turned away. So we had about, which is really high. So we had about 90% average occupancy throughout the year, which is really, really quite high. And I mean, sometimes we have to close a bedroom because it needs to be repaired, or, we might have really high needs in the shelter. But I mean, as a whole, we were full pretty much all year.
And just to put this into perspective, or say something that's obvious, people being turned away from an emergency shelter type situation, could be, in worst case scenario, in a Jessica Martel type scenario. I'm stopping myself from saying a death sentence. I don't want to kind of say that, but that's what happened.
That's reality.
That's a reality check, isn't it?
Yeah, it is. We were actually talking, Jan and I and Candice were talking the other day, and one of the things that came up was, if you think of us as, you go to a hospital emergency room, you're sitting in a waiting room and you're
waiting to be triaged.
Yeah, right. And you are somewhere safe, and at some point you're going to get help, and we don't have waiting rooms, right? So it's extremely difficult to answer those calls and know people need help, and we can't help them. And I think I could probably open it up to Candice on what that would be like.
I mean, Candice, your facial expressions is that this is like, you're obviously connecting with this. You've walked miles in these shoes.
I thought because I wasn't being physically hit that wasn't abuse.
Yeah.
Whereas like I'd come home from a gig and there would be a window broken, or, there'd be pots and pans all over the floor. The whole entire living room was destroyed. I was terrified that my dog was, walking around on broken glass. And I was so afraid to go out and take gigs away from home, because I knew if I was gone for 2 days, I didn't know what I was coming home to. And I thought that because I wasn't being physically abused, that wasn't warrant enough to call the women's shelter. I didn't know that. I'd ask for help from, or I'd consult in situations where I knew that, if I, my friend had, situation like what would you do? But I never for once thought that my situation was out of my control. And I knew that maybe one day if I did have to call the police, that would be it. And unfortunately it took 4 years of going through all of that continuous stress and of abuse and violence and punches in the walls, like the amount of holes that had to be repaired in our home. The day I did call the police, and that was the day that I knew that this is it. I'm now fearing for my life, my daughter's safety. I had to call in reinforcements, and that was a span of 2.5 weeks from the time that I called the police to the time that he hung himself in our garage. And he left it on my voicemail, which I found 4 days after.
He left the incident.
He left it on. Not only did I have a goodbye text message, it was left in his Hotmail, in his email. There was a draft there. It was in a note in his pocket. Everything was so planned out. And then because I didn't answer that text, he called me 4 minutes later and left a voicemail.
It's awful. I just want to highlight, that's really one of the misconceptions of, abuse, is that people often think that it is physical, but that's not. There's emotional control, there's, verbal abuse, there's financial control. Yeah. There are those, like you were saying with your dog, pet abuse. That's a form of abuse, and those all hold people, staying there because they do think that they're like, oh, this is, kind of normal, or I'm not really, something feels really super icky, but it's not that bad.
But I love him.
Yeah, right? And those are
so
those
good,
cycles, right?
60% of the time.
What about my kids and their
right?
dad?
Yes.
No.
Yeah. And we hear that all the time I think that's the thing, is there is love there. That is, what people don't understand is there is love there. And, I'm sure you did love your partner even in those really horrible moments. And, I that's what makes it so difficult. And then you're like, oh, this is really horrible. And then it gets really good for a while. And you're like, oh, it's fine. It's no big deal.
I'd never heard of I've heard of alcoholism, in TV shows and movies, but I didn't realize until I was 3 months pregnant when he told me that he was an alcoholic. So I didn't understand that there's childhood trauma. There's past traumas. There's stuff that, you can't deal with on your own. And I'm very vocal about it with my daughter. My daughter's now 7.5, which makes us feel really old. I can't believe our children are so old, Ryan. Come on.
Hey, I got a 9-month-old. Speak for yourself.
Yeah, it gets worse.
I hope I can still pick him up in a few years. Can I, this is the, and by the way, this is, people get some insight into our friendship, because here we are talking about the most serious things and also like laughing. And I guess it's just, isn't it, this is real life. And I told you before the show, I said, I'm exemplifying like every stereotype when I greeted you at the door this morning. And I'm like, Candice, I had no idea. Like I saw, and you're kind of like, nobody did. My best friends did. And yet here you are, you're this electric force, you walk into a building, you get 18,000 people singing a national anthem. Like here you are, and it just like, how did you, I'm sure that there's a lot of people can put up big, strong, brave fronts. Now though, you at a point where there's some stability, where you feel more healthy, and how did you get to that point? Let's talk about some of the resources that were available. Did you encounter challenges tapping into those resources?
And I was working like a regular day job at that, like through all of this. And it was kind of weird. Like when I started, there was a situation where I had to go to my boss, and I was like, okay, I think my partner wants to unalive himself. I need help. I don't know what to do. So they were really great about that whole situation. And then the day that I knew that he was in my garage, like there was just like, the whole day is just like, I could have an entire podcast show about that day. It was just so much involved. And, but my employers were great. Like I was in a working union, and they were like, okay, well, when you're ready, you can take time off. And it took, because it happened, so October 28th was my birthday. The day after, I'd called the police, and then he died on November 18th. So that whole entire span of time. But I didn't call my boss and to be like, okay, I don't know how to make food. I don't know how to stand up. I can't stop crying. Yeah. What do I do? Yeah. She's like, I'm surprised it took you this long to come to me. And I'm like, oh gosh, like, what do I do? So she's like, immediately, just go to your doctor, get a note. And it took like one sentence for my doctor to be like, and you're off work.
Okay.
Yeah. So they were really good. And I was just very grateful that I had the support. And I went through trauma therapy. I did something called EMDR, which really helped kind of just tap into past traumas and then current traumas. And so I did that for 6 months.
This is that like a series of lights that blink with your eye. Is that sort of like electric therapy? Is that what EMDR is?
No, wouldn't that be great? Like
no,
shock
what is
therapy?
It? What is
no.
EMDR?
EMDR is kind of, I can't even call it like a hypnosis, but it's like eye rapid movements.
Yeah.
So they like have like a point where you just kind of like watch like a ticking like your hand. And it's almost like I want to say hypnosis, but it's not. It's just
keep
like
hearing people talk about this.
I think everybody should do it. I think everyone should just go through like a 6 month of therapy just to kind of tap into things that they don't really realize have affected them through their childhood, because we've all lived. I don't know a single person who hasn't like had some form of childhood trauma that has affected them in a way that makes them struggle as an adult.
Jan, so this is like a success story. Generally, not that you have not had your challenges, but you're here.
Yeah.
You're here. It's how common are the success stories, and how common here we hear stories of 1,200 people plus their children, 1,200 adults plus their children being turned away.
Yeah,
right?
and just think about that. This is one shelter. There are over 50 in Alberta, and they are really struggling right now in terms of lack of funding and lack of capacity. At the same time, I think what gives shelter staff strength is seeing these successes, because they have great successes. They have wonderful outcomes with the women that they're working with, and particularly with the children. Like we know, if you're working with mom and child together in the shelter with a good children's program, just think of the trauma you can prevent for that child for the rest of their life to build that resiliency. We know it works, but we can't get the funding to provide all the supports that we need. Certainly shelters try to support women when they can't come in, but there's also a limit. You've only got so many staff, and you can hear in the voices of some of the staff just how challenging it is, how heart-wrenching it is to have someone on the phone and you can't take them in that day. And really, and then, there's been suggested, well, just put them up at a hotel. But can you imagine being in that situation all alone by yourself without the safety that you need in a hotel? And how are you going to pay for it? Because quite frankly, sometimes income support isn't that responsive to meeting those needs. And, we see that quite often with women. So we just really need to have, we were so excited when we saw the minister's mandate letter come out with this government, because it talked about working with the social service sector to address workforce challenges. We thought, wow, this is really going to see a movement of the needle. But we got totally bypassed on this road to recovery. We haven't got a cent more than what shelters have had in previous years. And when you go back, it goes back all the way to 2014.
Did you not get a cent more because you already just had so much funding, Jan, that you just didn't know what to do with it?
This is coming out the years.
If you look at it, every year for the last 9 years, it's in essence a 2.5% cut because of inflation. If you averaged inflation overall, we've had no inflationary increases, no increases in operating costs. One thing government doesn't realize, too, is we feed women and kids. So can you imagine, like, we've got 7,000 women in shelter. How many do you have in a shelter any one day?
Well, any given time, anywhere from 20 to 30, 35.
So you're feeding 25, 35 individuals every day on your grocery budget.
Yeah.
That was developed back in 2014.
Yeah, our grocery budget for 2022 was like $57,000. And I mean, we get, like, on top of that, we get food donations. Like, we have partnerships with like Sobeys and HelloFresh where we get free food, or not free food, but they donate to us. And I mean, we're still paying $57,000 on groceries, and I mean, that's healthy food. We want people to,
of course,
have nutritious meals and feed people really well. And I mean, we have a lot of our people that come into shelter have experienced homelessness, or so they're hungry.
Yeah. And we also see shelter work really aligns with some of the things that government is trying to do. Like, one of the pathways to homousness for women is abuse. Like, almost every woman who is homeless is there because of abuse in her life, maybe not immediate, but over time. Women.
It's a common theme.
It's a common theme. Yeah. Addictions, mental health, again, domestic violence, a major pathway to take you there if you don't get the help you need. Shelters provide that help. One of our members, thanks to funding from the city of Edmonton, has a nurse practitioner on staff. And, they've been able to have, recovery-oriented programs, being able to, make sure women stay, off drugs. And they've been able to prevent visits to the emergency room because they're able to help on site. So these are all saving government money. And I don't think it's recognized either that if you invest properly in women's shelters, you're going to save not just a lot of lives from, challenges and additional trauma. You're going to save money too. The courts, the police, your income support, your child welfare, your hospitalizations, your dental costs, all of that. If you work with women's shelters and work with their staff to provide appropriate support.
So what do you think's going on? Like, I saw this morning, the Sexual Assault Center of Edmonton as an example from their Twitter account. Like, they're throwing down with the provincial government. Like, they're pissed off. They're calling out the minister. They're rattling their sabers. Like, it's an interesting time to look around and see big double-digit percentage increases in a lot of files with a huge surplus budget, and yet at the same time, sexual assault resources, domestic violence resources are not receiving the funding that they say that they desperately need, that arguably they've needed more than ever. So can I ask you in candid terms, like in laypersons, real people, not politicians, not executive directors speak, like how real people talk to each other? What do you think's going on?
Well, I don't know if they really understand what domestic violence shelters do, quite frankly, and haven't taken the time because they've got lots on their plate. There's no question about it, to really understand what we do. We too have been asking to meet with the various ministers, and we've been asking since the mandate letters came out last fall. We have our first meeting next week. It's after the budget. So we really want to have an opportunity to, to let the elected officials know what shelters do, the impact they have on their lives. And I think that they haven't had the chance to really talk one-on-one to shelter staff, and haven't understood even how the budget got to where it is, because there's no increase, and they're thinking there's an increase, but there is not one of our members got an increase in their contracts. They're exactly the same as last year, as they were the year before, It's
not like cost of living hasn't gone up at all.
No. Yeah. One of the highest inflation rates since the 80s, but here we are.
Yeah, I saw a news story the other day that says inflation is expected to drop to 7%, and you thought drop to 7%.
Yeah.
I mean, usually people look at 2.5.
And that's why we're said to government, give us, an inflationary adjustment since the last increase, because inflation keeps going up. So if we say, okay, it equates to, X dollars today, we know 6 months down the road, it's even going to be more.
Sure.
So the longer they wait, the more challenges there are for shelters in terms of their purchasing power, the harder it is to retain staff. We've had unprecedented staff turnover because of low wages, and it's a stressful job. Like, it's 24/7 shift work. We're seeing increased complexity, increased needs. Their work is, and you don't just go to school to learn how to be a shelter worker. Some, like, even if you're a social worker or a psychologist today, not that we can afford to hire them that often, but you don't have to take one course in understanding violence against women and girls. Yet it is a major social issue, and it's hidden. So we really need to get people talking about it, understanding the impact, and that every one of us can make a difference if they want to act and choose to act.
This is obviously such an important conversation. I'm so grateful that the three of you have been here. I want to give each of you an opportunity before we thank you for your time, to make sure we don't miss anything, kind of give us a final thought. But Candice, in particular, you never know who's going to hear this. And I suspect, and I have reason to believe, that your message will land with at least one person who desperately needed to hear it today. What's your message to that person?
Oh, it does get better. Everything can get better. You just have to make sure that you ask for help. Help is out there. Violence and domestic situations happen all the time, and I think we just have to start with an education to our younger people and understanding what those are, and knowing what abuse is and the different forms. And I think the education needs to come a lot sooner in our lives, because it just being treated like garbage from people is so prevalent these days. It just happens all the time, and we just need to know that there's help out there.
Marla?
Yeah, for sure. I don't know. This is just really beautiful. Like Jan has some really great points, and for me, it's an honor to sit and listen to Candice too. I mean, we see it every day in the shelter, and I think and I mean, not even just in the shelter, in the community too. We do lots of outreach. We do those prevention pieces, and sometimes we get to people before the abuse occurs. Sometimes we get to people when it's happened one time. Sometimes it's been going on for 20 years, and makes it even harder to break that cycle. And I think women and people experiencing abuse that do leave it, like, there's so much courage there, and they're really strong. And I mean, these are people that want to be thriving community members, and these are people that want to get back into the workforce. Like, they might take breaks in working, and one of the forms of control is, not allowing people to leave the house. Like, we've had people come into the shelter that are so isolated that they actually haven't even left the house, or they haven't gone grocery shopping. They come to us with no bank account. They've never had a bank account.
Yeah.
Like, that is the level of control. So you're literally, like, you're starting a whole life, and really, without the work of shelter, some of those people wouldn't be able to leave. Like, we help with all of those pieces, helping them, get back on their feet and getting an income, going back to school, supporting the kids. Our work is important, and we're saving lives. We're saving lives. Like, bottom line, we're saving lives. And I hope a lot of people, listen to us, and I encourage people to reach out, to their MLA or even reach out to us and express concern as
make
a community.
noise.
Yeah,
I mean,
because
people are going to have political candidates knocking on their door multiple times over the next few months.
Yeah, and domestic, it affects all of us. Like 1 in 3 people experience domestic violence. Like that's
1 in 3.
Well, there's 1, 2, 3, 4 of us here, and here's
Yeah.
Candice here. So those numbers are high, and it impacts kids in school, and it impacts teachers, and it impacts our healthcare system and employers, and it's a huge issue. It's a huge problem.
This is not taking away or not intended to take away from any of the adults that experience domestic violence, but
sure.
I think of the kids. I think of the kids that grow up and this is what they know. This is what they understand.
I had a phrase that I used the other day was, I'm comfortable in chaos. And that's why I've been in so many abusive relationships in my life, is I'm just so comfortable in chaos. And awful.
And and I mean, I just want to highlight with the kids too, is, that it's normal to them, right? And so it's so important for people to reach out and get help so that we can, like some of the things that we do with kids is educating them on, that's not okay. Like we've had kids come into shelter and, they have behavioral issues, and they're like, what do you mean you're not going to hit me? And why are people not yelling and screaming? And this is not normal. And it takes them, like, from the time that they come in to shelter, and usually people are with us for about 30 days, to the time that they leave, the transformation is one of the most beautiful things that I've seen. And it's like, I've cried so many times when kids leave, because I'm like, we just saved that kid's life.
Yeah. There's a great question in here, and Jen, I wanted to sort of touch on this because this is a multi-pronged conversation, obviously, but there's funding and there's the shelter conversation, and a lot of times these are, not exclusively, but often emergency shelters. And then there's the longer term supports, and then there's the whole reason why these are necessary in the first place. Right? I mean, Tracy asks the question in our YouTube live chat, like, what are we doing to address the root causes of domestic violence?
Well, the root cause is misogyny, right? Patriarchy, and words that people feel uncomfortable with,
For sure.
and how women's issues are minimized. But like Candice's story about the workplace, like we are working with workplaces at the Alberta Council of Women's Shelters to educate workplaces on how to address domestic violence when you see it in the workplace. She was fortunate. She had someone who knew exactly, what to do in terms of addressing her needs. But there's many employers out there, women get fired because their abusers are phoning them at the workplace and interrupting them as a method of power and control. So we're reaching out to try to address that. We've been very fortunate at ACWS. We've been working with the Alberta Junior Hockey Leagues across Alberta. They stepped up to the bar.
Really?
And yes, we've been going out into locker rooms across the province and talking about gender-based violence and the role they can play and recognizing what that is. And, we're really, really excited about doing that. So there's lots of things that we're also doing. Like, I think people don't recognize women's shelters also do prevention work. And so when we looked at this last round of funding, for instance, they gave some funding to family violence prevention workers, but those aren't necessarily workers in shelter. Shelters have their outreach workers who do exactly the same thing, but they didn't get an increase. So it really has, created some challenges there, but there's lots we could do around prevention. And I think it's also asking people to stand up, just as Marla's just said, like, please let, your MLA, no matter what political party, let them know that you're standing with women's shelters, that women's shelters also need to be part of the recovery, that they can't continue to operate with the lack of funding that they've been experiencing almost now for a decade. And frankly, back then, it wasn't what they needed either. So, I mean, you're asking an increase for something already that's, wasn't enough to really pay all of the bills. But we also want government to work with us to look at what is a realistic way of funding shelters, of staffing shelters. Their staffing model goes back to the last century, really. Hasn't been updated. We know a lot more than we did in the 80s and 90s around domestic violence.
Yeah, for
so
sure.
we need people to work with us on this.
Have you met with government to discuss your concerns?
We've provided briefs. We haven't been able to meet with ministers. We started with the red tape reduction. We had a task force then, but COVID hit, and then a lot of that red tape kind of just figured out for us. I mean, shelters have a schedule they have to fill out, which is 401 lines on an Excel spreadsheet.
Right.
Lots of fun.
Right.
You know, and adds to your audited costs. But yes, we've made these points over many years. And so it's sort of like that waiting room idea. You're always having to wait. We're not big enough, right? We're a relatively small part of the ministry, probably a rounding error for some departments' budgets. But we have a significant need, and they do amazing work.
Yeah, and I think, I mean, you were saying, Jan, like our staffing model and the funding that we've been receiving to operate a shelter hasn't changed, but yet the community has changed in post-pandemic. Like I just, I gave you my numbers from 2021 to 2022, and those are they're going to continue to grow. So we want to keep helping people, and we know post-pandemic, there's lots of challenges in the community, and I think that's just, they need to step up. Like people have to step up.
That's Marla Poelzer that you're hearing in leadership at the Jessica Martel Memorial Foundation. Jan Reimer also joining us in studio. She's the former Edmonton mayor and the executive director of the Alberta Council of Women's Shelters. And my friend and my new hero, Candice Ryan. I just feel like I just can't even explain just how proud I am of you and how much it means to have you here today, and how grateful I am that you're here today.
Oh, thank you so much.
I feel stupid that I didn't know, honestly. If you want me to use real words,
yeah, you can use real words.
It's so good to reconnect with you, and I'm so proud of you for this advocacy.
Thank you.
And I'm grateful that the three of you joined us here on International Women's Day right here on Real Talk.
Thanks, Ryan.
Real Talkers, you can let us know how this conversation is landing with you. Again, you can check out the Alberta Council of Women's Shelters at acws.ca. We'll also have links to the Jessica Martel Memorial Foundation in the show notes on YouTube and on the podcast. And of course, to find a women's shelter in the province of Alberta, the call is confidential and toll-free at 1-866-331-3933. And we'll have that information in the show notes as well. This conversation is presented by our friends at Urban Timber. Every week, they're presenting a Real Talk Roundtable. Today, it's back-to-back. In just a second, we're going to talk about women in aviation. Urban Timber reclaimed what is a family-owned business, designing some of the most breathtaking tables, mantles, shelves, wall paneling, flooring that you've ever seen. You can check it out online on their website, urbantimber.ca, or go check out their beautiful brand new West Edmonton studio, including their boxcar collection. This is wood that's been reclaimed from rail cars, those that traveled millions of miles across North America. The character comes from the wear and tear of cargo and freight being dragged across the floor. There's nothing like an end table, a dining room table, a boardroom table from the Urban Timber boxcar collection. Again, you can check it out at urbantimber.ca. If this is the time of year where you're looking for a change when it comes to your career, when it comes to your education, maybe you're looking to shake things up, open new doors, why not check out Canada's Open University? That's Athabasca University at athabascau.ca. Maybe it's a new career in AI or HR. Maybe you're looking to do research into the sciences. Maybe it's that draw of nursing. You know that there are more nursing grads from Athabasca U than any other university in Canada. An unbelievable faculty there. You can learn more about applying and, of course, working at your own pace by checking them out online today at athabascau.ca. The family-owned team at Grand Dog Essentials has a new special on quality raw dog food for the month of March. The Doggy Moggy Chicken Raw Food, the 40-pound box, is on sale for $73.50 for a 40-pound box. That's about 20% off. You want to use the discount code MARCH 2023 at checkout to receive your savings. What can I tell you? What would be more of a powerful endorsement than letting you know that our dogs, Moses and Monroe, eat Grand Dog Essentials quality raw food? We've seen the health benefits. Heck, we've even seen the aesthetic benefits. Monroe's coat, she's a absolute scene stealer. You can buy some today, then at the end of the month, if you want to fill your freezer, a minimum $50 order to have it delivered to your door in Edmonton, Calgary, and Central Alberta. Again, the promo code March 2023 at granddog.ca. Now, feeding the humans in your house? Why not check out Friesen Brothers in 16 different Alberta locations for more than 65 years. Friesen Brothers has been Alberta grown and Alberta owned. Their hot cross buns are back, available right up until Easter. These are the famous Friesen Brothers hot cross buns baked fresh every single day by their real sourdough bakers using 100% Alberta flour. And of course, they include a little bit of Charlie. That's the mother dough. Charlie, the sourdough starter, famous in Friesen Brothers circles. You can check out their flyers, including the Family Essentials flyer, online at friesen.com. That's FRESON.com. Hey, we're looking to save you money all the time. We want there to be all kinds of benefits for you being a friend of Real Talk. When it comes to what you're paying for utilities, I implore you to take 2 seconds today and check out parkpower.ca. Right now, I want to focus in particular, shine the light. We're spending a lot of time talking about community involvement and commitment today, about making a difference. Park Power is set apart from all the other utilities companies because of their community partner program. That means 10% of their electricity profits go to deserving charities in the province of Alberta. Even cooler, you get to pick from a big long list which charity you want to support when you bring your business to Park Power. How cool is that? Nobody else does this. You can also learn more about their Solar Club programs. If you've got solar on your property, you're going to want to take your business to Park Power. The promo code REALTALK23 can save you up to $150 off your first bill at parkpower.ca. And speaking of solar panels, if you're flirting with the idea, maybe this spring, of going green, of introducing more sustainability into your energy supply, you have to check out kubienergy.ca. On their blog, you can learn more about this $40,000 Canada Greener Homes loan. This is an interest-free loan. You can take up to 10 years to pay it back. This is allowing Canadians, including right here in Alberta and BC, where Kubie's doing a lot of work, to go green sooner than you may have been able to. The coolest part, Kubie does all the paperwork for you. You can learn more today by getting your free quote online at kubienergy.ca. As mentioned, the United Nations today is observing International Women's Day with the theme Digital. We're focusing on innovation and tech equity across different industries. Of course, that includes the aviation industry. And what a pleasure to welcome another Real Talk Roundtable presented by Urban Timber, featuring the CEO of Elevate Aviation, Kendra Kincaide, the director of Elevate's Learning Center, Nova Andrews, and a recent graduate from Elevate Aviation, Cassara Nash. To the three of you, welcome to the show. Thank you for being here. In your leadership position, Kendra, in aviation, what does a day like International Women's Day mean to you?
Good question. First, thanks for having us.
Oh, thrilled to have you here.
Yeah, we're really happy to be here. What does it mean to me with the lens of International Women's Day? Well, it's a tough one because it is a male-dominated industry. And so there's a lot of different feelings about International Women's Day, if I'm totally honest.
Please be honest.
Yeah. I think there's a bit of, why do we need to celebrate this? Right up to, yes, let's celebrate the women who are doing amazing things. And to me personally, it really does. It means we should celebrate International Women's Day because I think we should highlight I think we should highlight the women that are doing the amazing work, just showing up inside the aviation industry, because aviation needs more people in general. And we need more women, and just showing off these careers that women are doing so other people can see them, and see them, and then they can maybe believe that they can do those jobs as well. And that's what we really want to do. And that's what we'd like to do on International Women's Day, show off these women that are in aviation as all year long.
Well, we're going to hear some pretty cool stories here in just a second. I'd love to hear yours. When you were like 7 years old, laying on your back in the backyard picking dandelions, were you always looking up when the jets were flying above? Did you always dream of having a career in aviation?
No, actually, I had never heard of aviation. My first time on an airplane, I was about 24, I think. And when I was 13, I actually ran away from home, and then I ended up in the foster care system. And so I didn't really dream of any career, really. And then I ended up meeting someone who was an air traffic controller in Moncton, New Brunswick. And they took me into the center. And I remember the first time I walked in and I was like, oh, what is this place? And I was like, I don't know what they're doing, but I want to do it. And then it was just sort of chasing that dream. And when I was finally accepted in air traffic control, I had my 4 kids, and I took my 4 kids down to Cornwall, Ontario to train. Everybody thought I was like crazy. Maybe they're right. I don't know. But and it was a long training path, but I finally did it, and now it's time to give back.
Wow, amazing. Nova, how did you get involved in aviation? Was this something you always dreamed of?
I can't say I've always dreamed of it, but we actually do see a number of different pathways that people enter into aviation, and quite often mine's more the stereotypical one, where I had a grandfather who flew. He was in the Air Force, and then my uncle was also a pilot. So when a base opened here in Edmonton for an airline my uncle was working for, I entered the industry because I knew about it. I'd heard about it. I felt comfortable about it. So I was sort of one of those more stereotypical stories. But awareness, we have found, is one of the biggest issues. We don't see people talk about it. We don't see guidance counselors talk about it. We don't hear, students learning about it in school. So I think I was one of the lucky ones that had somebody who was in my family exposed to it.
Cassara, how did you get drawn into? You're a recent graduate. Like, you graduated 2 days before Christmas. So first of all, congratulations.
Thank you.
Yeah. What drew you to aviation?
It's a little bit unique, I guess. My dad heard, I think it was maybe on CBC radio, like something about Elevate. And he actually told my mom, and he's like, you should do this. And so my mom enrolled and I enrolled. We actually did it together. So through my dad listening to the radio, that's kind of how I found out about Elevate.
So you and your mom were studying together?
Yeah, we graduated together too.
That's incredible. Yeah. Can you tell us about your area of study and what you were preparing to do and ultimately what you'd like to do?
I had like absolutely zero idea of any, like I just kind of did it because my parents were like, you should do this. I was like, sure. I had absolutely zero like expectations. And then you always think going in like there's pilot, flight attendant, and so those are like the 2 main careers, I guess, that I thought of exploring. And then after going through the program, I was like, okay, a pilot still seems cool, so I'll try to get my private pilot license eventually. And now I am trying to take more studies to become an aircraft broker.
What's an aircraft broker? Like selling planes?
Yeah, selling planes, which is kind of crazy. Like before aviation, I kind of considered real estate, and then going through the program, I was like, but who sells the planes? I was like, somebody has to sell the planes. And I don't know, it just came together so magically. Like going through the program, I was able to find a course. I'm enrolled in the course, and like I'm meeting all these aircraft brokers all over the place. And I don't even know like where they came from or how they're getting introduced to me, but it just came together just so magically.
So you've got a bit of an entrepreneurial bend to you. You've got a bit of a, and definitely. I'm sitting here thinking right now, I'm like I'm not to be tacky, but selling planes. That sounds like you could do pretty well with that. Last I checked, I don't think planes are $10,000, but yeah. So what's the premise of, like, when you talk about giving back, what's the premise of Elevate Aviation? Who are you training? Who's coming to the center? What are they learning? Can you bring us up to speed?
Yeah. So, well, the heart of Elevate Aviation, kind of where it started, was really to help, like from my personal point of view, to help women who'd been in positions like I had, and, let them realize, like I always say, aviation saved my life. And so to do that for other women is what we really want to do in aviation. And it has grown from this little seed of like, how can we help other women, and give them, help them be self-sustainable so that they can look after themselves if they want to through aviation. So now we have this incredible program, like Nova always says, kindergarten to career. So we do kindergarten to career. So we have programs for the young kids through the teachers. They can do it online, or we can send people in all across the country. We have volunteers all across the country. We have a 1-week program where we bring kids in from grade 6 to grade 12 for a whole week behind the scenes of aviation. Like Canadian North turns their 737 into an escape room. So they get to go and do that. They
No
get to play
way.
with drones. They get to just explore all over. And then from there, we have our 9-week program where we have women like you who come in. And so we have that 9-week program, and that's where we bring women in and help them get skills that they need to enter the workforce. And then we help them through our connections get work in aviation. And this is just the start of where we're going. I feel
like you're not mentioning something. I mean, unless there's a typo on your website, but I'm looking at elevateaviation.ca. The 9-week program is free?
It is completely free.
What?
Yeah, it is free, and lots of wraparound supports. So if people need help during that program, if they need help with daycare, if they need help with groceries, if they need help to pay some bills, we have wraparound supports.
So this isn't your average sort of career prep type course.
No, like we're even like listening to the guests that you had on earlier. Like, you know, my heart is like those are the women that we want to reach, but we want to reach everybody. But bring them in and remove every single barrier that we can to make them successful, because that's what women like. We get people that come in and say, okay, thank you for showing me, but now how do I do it? We want to not only show you how to do it, but give you every possible way to be successful. Just remove every barrier that we can.
So your brand is bang on the word elevate. That is a bang on brand, isn't it?
Yeah. Who knew when we started it? I don't know.
Yeah, I suspect it wasn't accidental. So who do you see? Like Nova, you must be surrounded. I mean, I didn't realize the magnitude of what's being accomplished here. You must be face to face with people in some circumstances starting from square one, in other circumstances just full of ambition, ready to rock. Maybe some who don't quite know why they're there, but maybe they find their footing.
Yeah, absolutely. Again, as Kendra mentioned, we're kindergarten to career. So we start talking to the kids at age 5 with our Junior Jets program. And we love to see those wide-eyed impressions that they get when they see these various careers. Then, of course, our ACE program, our elementary to high school students coming in, and the questions, like the wonder that they have is so gratifying to see. And we, of course, survey them at the beginning. How much do you know? And much like Cassara said, oh, we know about pilots, we know about flight attendants. Do they know about aircraft brokers? But when we do this great whiteboard at the end, and they start naming all of these careers that they've learned about over the week. And it's just like, yes. And then, of course, our aviation readiness training, the first program is our WEST program, this Women's Employability Skills Training, where, yes, we do see women who are just very lost, not sure what direction to go. And maybe they have heard Kendra on the radio, or they've seen, something on social media, and they're tiptoeing their way in and asking some questions like, what is this all about? What will this get me? What will I learn? Like, who else is going to be in the room? But, the biggest thing is creating this safe space for them to come in and explore and find out whether it's something for them or not. And the most beautiful thing about this program is that they can come in, the skills that they take away with them, even if they don't land in aviation, are invaluable to landing in another career.
Yeah, no kidding. There's going to be a lot of talk today, and then that's the whole point of the UN pushing this out with, International Women's Day, that digital theme, like tech and innovation and in industries. I mean, what's more innovative in tech than aviation, to be honest with you? I mean, it's right up there, isn't it? Cassara, what was kind of the personal impact for you? Like you said, you're telling us, I just love how honest you are about it. You're like, I didn't know what I was going to do. I didn't know what this is about. You show up. Is this like 9 weeks later, all of a sudden you've got a pretty focused or clear plan?
Well, like, to be honest, like, going into it, I was like, honestly, my mom would just say, like, she pretty much had to drag me to the first day, because I was like, I don't know, like, what I'm getting myself into, like, 9 weeks, like, sure, it's free, but, like, I don't know. It was like a lot of pressure for me in the beginning. But then honestly, going through, it's like to talk about like the equity that they kind of include in the program. It's like they made sure that no matter who was there, like all the girls, they had like accommodations for whatever it was that they needed, just to make sure that they could show up there. Like they provided computers and everything like that. And firstly, to just see like the length that like Kendra and Nova went to make sure that all the ladies were like feeling welcomed and were able to participate no matter what it was that they were going through was just amazing, just to be a part of it. But then also just going through it and like Nova was saying, everything that we learned regardless of aviation, just to build like even personal skills, like proper interview skills, like resume building, public speaking, just little things like that. It just puts you so much further ahead than you were before, even if at the end aviation isn't what you want to do, which of course is like the goal, and it's amazing to learn all of these things, but just going through it, it's changed my life. Like I feel like I'll never be the same.
You didn't mention typing club, everybody's favorite typing club. Come on.
Typing club.
I actually really like typing club. I feel like I was the only one who liked the typing club. I feel like everybody hated it, but it improved my like productivity on the computer at least like 100%.
Just learning how to type better.
Yeah,
Right?
quicker.
Yeah.
Totally, 100%.
Yeah.
100%.
It's not doesn't mean that we want our women to be secretaries or anything.
No, hey, can I tell you? Can I tell you a
Digital
little
skills.
This is when someone whenever we play the game, the party game, and it's like tell us something wild about you that nobody would ever know. In 93 and 1994, you probably weren't even born yet.
I was born 94.
You were born 94. So the year you were born, I was crowned the Alberta Provincial High School Typing Champion.
Wow.
So
There
there
you
you go.
go.
At 106 words a minute. So there you go. No, but I find typing to be actually very cathartic. I love typing.
You know, it
I love
is.
hammering out stuff on the keyboard. Yeah.
It's funny that we talk about typing club because even for my mom too, like, because my mom's a little bit older than me.
She's listening. Be careful.
Not that old, Cassara.
But no, she really lacked computer skills, like really seriously. And like now she's like confident on the computer. She's putting together PowerPoints and like little Word documents, and like she's typing. She's like, look at me go, look at me go. I'm like, yes, you're killing it.
She's bouncing in her seat, talking about look at the smile. Her
Right?
face is gonna break from smiling.
Honestly, like Elevate, it just brings so much happiness to me. Like I can do nothing but just smile, just even talking about it.
Oh, you're the founder and CEO, and what does that even mean to you to hear that?
Oh my gosh. I get so emotional every time. We have graduations after every 9 weeks, and they all cry. Everybody cries. You know.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, he's here. He goes.
Yeah.
Is it okay, John? I didn't know.
Yeah,
sure,
Yeah,
yeah.
is that okay? Yeah.
Johnny, you've been working at their events.
So I've been providing like the music and the sound for their graduations.
Yeah.
And the first time I went there, I didn't know what to expect. I knew it was a program for women to learn aviation, but I had no idea the effect it had on not only them and their families till I got there. And the first thing I did was text my partner, Jatinder, and say like, if you ever want to change careers, come here, because every person's story, I mean, there's women who go up there and it's from the smallest thing, like she said, learning typing, all the way to like, I didn't talk to anyone before this. I didn't have any friends. I gained social skills. I gained this, that. Like every person has a life-changing story. And it's like you just said there, it's a free program. So the work that Kendra is doing, like I'm getting emotional talking about it right now because I'm thinking about the women that went up there and how it affected me when I was there. It's like, it's not just a job to these women; it changes their lives.
Let me tell you about something. So Johnny and I, we've worked like about 250 NHL games together. We've hosted and John's provided music and AV services and all these different things. We've worked hundreds of events, and so we'll come in here like on Mondays. We'll kind of recap with each other off air on the weekend. Like, how was your weekend? And he's been like spinning records for like 1,500 people here, and I've been hosting a gala for 800 people here. And it's like, how was that? It's like, fine. How was that? Good. How was that? Yeah, not too bad. And then I was like, how is the Elevate Aviation event? He's like, dude, he like stands up. He's like, we got to get him on the show. He's like, this is unbelievable. He's like standing up, talking with his hands. I mean, it made, I could tell, and we're not just saying that because you're sitting here. Like, I could tell it made it, this is why you're sitting here, is because it made such a huge impact.
We need more
on
people
you.
to know about it because it's life-changing work that is free. If you want to get out of the situation you're in, or if you like she's saying, like most people think they want to be a stewardess, a flight attendant, whatever, or a pilot, but there's the women that go up there, they have so many other avenues they can take. It's just like, it's mind-blowing how it can open up your opportunities, right?
Yeah. We've got some wisecrackers, by the way, in the live chat here. Everyone's trying to come up with your new slogans, like Elevate Aviation, the sky's the limit.
We say it all the time.
We have someone here saying that aircraft brokers have their ups and downs. Yeah, not bad, not bad. So what are some of the, when you look at aviation sort of back in the day, even Johnny there, like the language, it was like stewardesses, now flight attendants. There's obviously male flight attendants, like there's male nurses, there's society's kind of catching up, but is there still, like, if we're being honest and real, is there still that Jan Reimer invoked the word patriarchy? Does that still play into the fact, like in the aviation industry, of course there are women pilots, but like, is it still, You know, we look at certain industries, say they're making gains, but it's not quite where it needs to be.
Yeah, you're trying to get me in trouble.
Well, no, but I just want your honest assessment.
We can play a guessing game.
Yeah,
how many women pilots? What percentage of pilots do you think are women? Let's play
Okay,
guessing
Oh,
game.
here we go.
gonna-
And
okay.
maybe I don't know.
Don't
if they
Google it.
text you
No, I'm
there,
not
but-
going to Google it.
Yeah, no,
I'm
if
going
anyone
to
wants
say
to guess.
I'm going to say 8%.
Lower.
Is it lower?
Really?
What is it, like 5%?
It's just under 7.
7% of,
Yep.
of pilots are female.
Yep.
Okay.
Okay, aircraft maintenance engineers.
Another guess.
These are the people turning wrenches?
Yep.
I'm going to say, I don't know, 3%?
Yeah, about that. It's between 1 and 3 depending on where you look.
So 1 out of every 100.
Yeah. How about air traffic control?
Okay, well,
My
that
job.
might be, I want to say 35%?
17. We're at 17%.
Half.
Yeah.
Okay.
17%. The thing is, like, women can do these jobs. Women love these jobs. I was just in Winnipeg at the aircraft maintenance competition and speaking to a group of aircraft maintenance, and I brought 3 women aircraft maintenance engineers with me for them to share their story of what it is like to be a woman in that part of our industry. And it was a really good conversation. I kind of braced everyone to say, okay, we're going to be honest and real, and this is a safe place for us all. It's not an attack on men. We never, ever, we love men. I keep saying that. We love men. But, we want to also be able to open up that conversation to say, what is it like? So if you're at a place at 17%, it's going to look a little bit different than the 2 to 3%. But we still have a long way to go in the entire industry, and not just to get women and help them, but to help the industry, because they desperately need people right now all across the industry. And there's a whole half of the population that aren't looking at this industry. So we're trying to say, hey, come on in.
And I always say our strongest allies are the men. So we're not about calling out, but calling in. So we need the men to understand, what difference they can make in the workplace for it to be a better place for women to be able to thrive.
100%.
We have a program that does that as well for companies.
Is that right?
Yeah,
we do.
So you work with what, like airlines and things like
well,
that?
so Nova runs our allies in the workplace. So I'll throw it over to you.
Yeah, sure. So again, we truly believe that as we're preparing all these women and telling them how incredible the aviation industry is, getting them ready to get out there and getting that job, we also have a responsibility to make those places that they're moving into safe spaces. So we have our Allies in the Workplace project, and we do work with companies. Right now we're working with the Winnipeg Airport Authority and Canadian North, and we go in, we do an audit of their organization, their policies, procedures. We help them set up a DEIA steering committee. We give them terms of reference. So we really try to help them create spaces that are better for everyone. So we really talk about diversity, equity, and inclusion. And again, making sure that we're not calling out, but calling into the conversation. It's a really different approach around that.
Yeah.
It's about culture change.
Yes.
It's not about just women.
That's right.
It's about culture change and
Yes.
making the workplace better for everybody.
Everyone.
Yeah.
That's right.
Looking at elevateaviation.ca, you got this mentorship program too. How important is that?
Oh my gosh, that's what started. So the Elevate started with a calendar. I climbed Mount Kilimanjaro with the Royal Ox Hospital, and I convinced the air traffic controllers that I worked with to do a calendar. We did this little spoof on air traffic control. And then the next thing we basically did was it started a mentorship program. Long story, but started a mentorship program. So we have a military mentorship program. I'm an honorary colonel in the military, so the military is very important to me. And we have a civilian mentorship program, and that is all across Canada. And we have other programs. We have a cross-country tour that started off this week across Canada, where we're bringing kids in all across the country for the next 2 weeks. We'll be bringing them in. We have speaking engagements. We have volunteers. We have ambassadors in every province and territory across the country. It really is across Canada. Our Inspire Gala. We bring in, we feature 8 women every year. You'll be going this year.
I think that's the one that, I think you and I are going to talk about that. I think that's the one that knocked Johnny's
throwing that
socks
one in.
off. Yeah. And we could do a whole roundtable on the experience of women in the military. That's something that they've obviously been talking about, and that's a real issue across Canada right now. It's nice to at least see it being taken seriously.
Yeah.
Or let me not make that as a definitive statement. Is in your estimation, is it being taken seriously? Some of the culture issues that we've seen in the Canadian Forces from what you see?
Well, I can only answer from what I see. Everyone has their own experience.
Sure.
From what I see and the conversations that I'm in, there are definitely conversations that things are being taken seriously. And again, I know everyone has their own experiences around that, but from my conversations that I'm in, there's everybody wants it to change.
I appreciate you taking that question. Cassara, I would imagine, like, looking around your class over the 9 weeks, did you make, as we would say, like, it sounds elementary, did you make any new friends? But like, you must have encountered some other people with similar stories that were.
Everybody's story was completely different. And that was, I think, like on our very first day, I remember, I will never forget what it was that we went through. It was like a little workshop about how we may like look different and we may think we're all different, but at the end of the day, like, we're pretty much all the same, like what we value, what we want in life, like things that we enjoy, what we love to do. So that was like one exercise, because I like went in there, I'm like, I'm so different than everybody, like and then just that first day we're like, actually you may think you're different, but you're more similar than you are, like different. Anyways, I don't know what I'm trying to say there, but in terms of making friends with the girls, like it was such a unique group of ladies, and we all came together, and I think we'll just be in touch with each other forever. Like, we still have a group chat. I texted them all today. I'm like, okay, watch the podcast, like 100%. And we just lift each other up, because I feel like going through it, we needed each other. Like, it was a very emotional journey for a lot of us too. So going through it, like, I think in the end I was just like telling the girls, it's like, no matter what, we can always stay in touch. Well, we try to go for coffee sometimes. We went bowling a couple weeks ago, just because I think it would be too much for us to like go through it together and then just never say anything to each other ever again.
Totally.
So some of them are newcomers to Canada as well in our program, right? That you get to know.
Yeah. There was a lady from the Ukraine, and she literally was, I think, in Canada like 1 week before she started the Elevate Aviation program. So it's like just being in touch with all the ladies was so important for, I think, every single one of us. And like I'm always texting them too, like, how are you? Making sure you're all good. Like, we're like, especially because I did it with my mom too. Like, I have to say that. Like,
that's so cool. Is that a first?
Yeah. I was shocked when I went in the classroom to meet them all in the first week. I was like, what do you mean this is your mom?
That's so cool.
It was fun doing it with my mom. Honestly, it made us so much closer together, and like we became like the mom and the daughter of the group. So it just kind of was like this, I don't know, it was kind of funny. Like, me and my mom were like kind of be like, Mom,
plus
where are
you had to keep it between the lines. Your mom was keeping an eye on you the whole time, right?
Actually, pretty much.
Yeah, exactly. Straight and narrow, just like the runway.
I was going to say, though, I do think that was one of the unexpected outcomes that we had from the program, was the camaraderie and that network of women that was built. And I heard so many times in that room of how a lot of women had poor experiences with other women, and they felt like they were always in competition with each other, and that, you know, they would always tear each other down. And it was sort of their first experience in a room full of women that would lift each other up.
There was absolutely none, like there was no mean vibes. Like, everybody was just there to better themselves. And then you can't bring people down, I feel like, when you're trying to be better yourself. And like, like Nova said, oh my gosh, like we just loved each other and we uplifted each other. And it's like nobody was different. Like, we were all the same, and like nobody was judgmental. And like, I think that was just one of the most magical things, was like, like Nova was saying, like sometimes being in a group, like workplace full of women, there can be like a lot of judgment, or like, I don't know, just mean catty behavior, I guess. It was just, there's none of that, like at all. And I think we all just loved each other. Like, that was just, I don't know, Elevate was magical for me.
I love you.
Look what you built. Look what you built.
With the team,
amazing.
though, with the team, it's just always,
of
like,
course, with the team.
I have an incredible team.
Your story, you know, I mean, just even your story, to bring it back to where this conversation started, like running away at 13, navigating the foster care system. For a lot of people, you know, tragically, statistically, there's not a lot of, you don't see a lot of CEOs, quite frankly, right? I mean, you do see some, but even your personal story, absolutely remarkable. I can't let that fly under the radar without noting that. It's just three people around this table doing incredible things. Maybe one day I'll be able to afford a plane, and if I do, I'll come straight to you.
I got you.
I don't know if we'll be able to afford you by then, but we'll see. That's Cassara Nash. She's a graduate of Elevate Aviation under the tutelage of the director of the Learning Center there, which is Nova Andrews, who's also been joining us, and of course the founder and CEO, Kendra Kincaide, joining us in studio at Elevate elevateaviation.ca on International Women's Day right here, a conversation we will not soon forget. Thanks for making time for us.
Thank you for having us.
Yeah, you got it. Real Talkers, you can check out elevateaviation.ca today. I guarantee people, I can say with confidence, this is a really engaged audience. I hope that you're prepared for what's going to happen here, because there's going to be a lot of interest.
Call us.
Give them a shout.
Like we say, we've got a
check them out
huge,
online.
amazing team behind the scenes that are doing all the heavy lifting.
So cool.
So we're ready for it.
So cool. I love it. And to hear that industries there too, there's a lot of jobs. We talk about a lot of industries. I hate to say it, but journalism is an example where we want the brightest young talent to be entering that industry, and we understand the importance of storytelling, but at the same time you're also like, jobs are shriveling up and outlets are closing down, and you're expected to do twice the amount of work for half the pay that you used to get. Well, here you're saying aviation needs people, right?
Yeah,
so that's an
do.
amazing opportunity for folks. Again, elevateaviation.ca. Thanks to the three of you.
Thank you.
Really appreciate it. Again, this Real Talk Roundtable is presented by our friends at Urban Timber, just one of the many sponsors that keep this show going every single day. That also includes Complete Care Restoration. They're the ones that built our studio. They helped us navigate some issues. It's an older warehouse, required a whole lot of soundproofing. They did a beautiful job there at CompleteCareRestoration.ca. I can also speak from firsthand experience. The team at Complete Care, well, they understand what it takes to get a job done right. And so when we told them we needed to tweak this or we needed to fix that, they were there to make sure that the vision was rolling out exactly how we needed it. I can give you 2 thumbs up on Complete Care Restoration. I know it sucks when the basement floods. I know it's brutal if you ever experience something like a house fire. But if that is the case, you let your insurance company know you want to deal with Complete Care Restoration. At Eden Landscaping, for more than 20 years, Mike and his team have been allowing outdoor spaces to come to life through tapping into your vision and then applying their expertise. It is a totally custom experience. And you know, a lot of business that Eden Landscaping takes care of every spring, summer, into the fall, it's problem solving. A lot of times they'll have a client come to them and say, we had to fire our landscape contractor halfway through, or we told these guys to take off because they're not solving our irrigation or drainage problem. We're not happy with exactly the way they're approaching the job. Mike and his team solve problems. If you need your landscape-related problem solved, look no further than Eden Landscaping at landscapeedmonton.ca. Hey, we're spending a lot of time talking about STEM today, right? Science, tech, engineering, mathematics. This is right in the wheelhouse of Apex Automation. And you want to talk about industries with a lot of promise? A lot of promise on the employment side, on the opportunity side. Apex Automation is hiring right now. Technologists, automation professionals, of course, professional engineers. They're hiring people from not just across Canada, but around the world, tripling the size of their team over just the past few years. Go to apexautomation.ca to learn more about what sets them apart. From opening field offices, from constructing workshops, bringing in their clients for training on hardware and software before it's implemented on actual job sites. Across industry, Apex Automation is raising the bar. They're hiring right now at apexautomation.ca. Also wanted to give a big shout out to our friends at the Dairy Queens of Northwest Edmonton and Sherwood Park. Of course, you know Dairy Queen has their monthly Blizzard specials. You know that they've got other food items on feature right now, including that chicken basket I've been telling you about, the sauced and tossed honey barbecue glazed chicken strip basket. The one thing about DQ chicken, it's all tenderloin. None of the other guys can say that. The DQ chicken is done differently, and you can pick yours up today. Absolutely beautiful with those crispy fries or the DQ onion rings and dipping sauce at the Dairy Queens in Palisades, Nemeo, Newcastle, Westmount, and Baseline Road. And before we get to a feature video we're looking forward to showing you, I wanted to remind you that coming up on Friday of this week, another edition of Trash Talk. That's your chance to blow off a little steam in an email to talk@ryanjesperson.com. It's presented, as always, by our friends at Local Environmental Services. In Alberta and Saskatchewan, they're managing garbage and recycling services for businesses, retail locations, restaurants, big, huge malls and hotels, all the way down to the independent ma and pa shops. It's different when you do business with local because they believe that communities and their partners deserve better. To figure out what that means, you can request a quote today. Save money on this line item. We know that matters to every business, regardless of size, by visiting localenvironmental.ca. Every Wednesday, we have a chance to head out to Jasper, right? To just sort of detach ourselves from the news cycle and to remember that sort of restorative element that comes with filling your lungs with mountain air. It's MyJasper Memories, and it's presented by our friends at Tourism Jasper. And this week, we want to remind you that spring break looming is a perfect time to get the family back out to Jasper. You can check out jasper.travel for more on everything that we're about to talk about here, including the world-class accommodations that are in store. Again, jasper.travel is the website you want to check out. Of course, spring break is a great opportunity to still enjoy, we'll call it like that shoulder season, right? The ponds are still frozen at this point. So if you're looking for a fun or unique idea as parents, maybe caregivers, maybe grandparents, to make some great memories with your kids, why not play pond hockey with amazing views? Now, everybody loves the indoor rinks. Trust me, me too. But skating just hits different when the boards are snowdrifts, when you're skating out on one of the Jasper ponds. The banners, instead of the banners and the big ads that you see in the hockey rinks, no, you're surrounded by mountain peaks. Jasper just hits different. You can, of course, finish off that experience on either Lake Mildred or Pyramid Lake with groomed outdoor ovals, rentals available nearby on both, and then finish the experience with hot chocolate around the fire. There's also a chance to make furry friends on a historical trappers route for dog-loving families. You can't have a more unforgettable experience. Ask anybody that's been pulled behind a team of Alaskan Huskies. Cold Fire Creek dog sledding leads young mushers through a beautiful wilderness that was once home to trappers and prospectors. Take a trip back in time this spring break in Jasper. And then, of course, make sure you head to the ski hill. We spoke recently about how family-friendly Marmot Basin is. Well, there's the private lessons. You can split those between multiple family members. A good range of route difficulties as well. The layout makes it less likely that tots are going to get separated or lost since all routes converge back at the same place. That's huge. It's also worth mentioning that if you are going to be coming out to Jasper for spring break and maybe the adults are looking for dinner by themselves, maybe a date night, MyJasper Nanny provides highly recommended expert nannies that will care for the kids. We have hired them before ourselves. Your kid gets an adventure, and you get a moment to breathe. Everybody returns happier and more able to make happy memories together. There is no destination like Jasper for spring break. Again, you can check out jasper.travel for more. On this International Women's Day, we wanted to show you a video that's been produced by an Edmonton-based group, Hoopla Media. They say, you're going to see a lot of inspiring content about women today. Big and little brands, governments, nonprofits, startups, Fortune 500 companies. Many organizations will get in on International Women's Day, making public commitments about their work to celebrate, empower, and respect women. But there's still work to be done. Check this out.
You, little one, are going to have every opportunity to do what you want, to speak up about what you want, to dance, to drive, to fly, to succeed. You are going to have every opportunity to be who you want to be, what you want to be, because there is nothing in your way.
And cut. Okay, good. I think we got it there, but let's do a few more for safety. So just that backlighting, I want to see a little bit more of a halo effect.
The video goes on to say, we tell our girls they can accomplish anything, but are we keeping our promises behind the scenes? They encourage you to check out the hashtag Embrace Equity. That video was produced by the team at Hoopla Media. That's Amy and Colleen, who point out that their Every Opportunity campaign believes that starting somewhere can be as simple as looking a little more closely at who is in the room. They're asking, are we living up to the promises that we're making to our little girls by following through with actions? When we talk in particular about the theme for International Women's Day today, digital equity in tech and innovation industries, here are some statistics we want to leave you with today. We heard some in the airline industry. That was a real wake-up call. Mm-hmm. But did you know that only 27, Johnny, this is unbelievable, 27% of the STEM workforce is women, like just over 1 in 4, okay, in science and tech. How about when it comes to actual storytelling? In the top 250 grossing movies in 2022, the top 250, 93% had no women cinematographers, 91% had no women composers, 80% no women directors, 75% no women editors, and 70% no women writers. So Amy and Colleen at Hoopla encourage us all today and every other day, consider who is in the room with you. Let's flip the script for our girls. We appreciate that. You can check out more of what they're doing at hooplamedia.ca and view the work that they're doing.
Yeah, and it's more like today everyone talks about equality, and then you have those riffle raffles who are like, there is equality. It's more about, like we're talking about here, it's about including women at every table, right? Yeah. And making sure those tables are diverse. I, as they're talking here, these Elevate women who are just incredible. I'm thinking about the last flight I took, which I thought I was going to die. And not because of the pilot, because it was during the wildfires in Kelowna. And it was from Edmonton back to Kelowna, the last time I flew that way. And it was the last flight before they closed the Kelowna airport for almost 48 hours, which is unprecedented.
Right.
Unprecedented. And we were flying into what looked like hell, literally into red glowing smoke that obviously causes turbulence. Obviously in the summer when it's humid and hot, that's when you get more turbulence. Nighttime flying. It was the scariest flight I've ever had in my life. And when the cockpit opened and we got off, it was a woman pilot standing there. And everyone applauded, and it just kind of blew my mind because you always just assume it's a man flying. I think you have that kind of stereotype in your head. And I said, in my head when we landed, I was like, thank God, because it was the scariest flight of my life. And I just looked, and immediately I thought, like, we still have these stereotypes ingrained in us.
Yeah, a friend of mine, she's a very skilled surgeon here in Edmonton, and she told me about an experience just a short while ago. She walked into a room and started talking to the patient and the patient's family, and they said, if you don't mind, we're just going to wait till the doctor gets here.
Yeah.
She goes, well, like, I am the doctor.
Yeah, you know what I mean?
They start the conversation, just these kind of preconceived notions.
And
right?
I'll say one more thing. I've seen a lot of posts already. I was, as the interview's going on, I'm looking online and everyone's putting up their posts. Don't just post about your mother and your sister or your daughter today. I get that those women can be very inspiring in a lot of people's lives. Some of them have been through hell. Some of them are CEOs like Kendra. But find someone like Kendra who's not directly linked to you that you can push today, that you can show people is an exception to the rule, like Kendra, like you were talking about, went through adversity, CEO of her own company, helping other women get into industry. Because I feel like, and I don't want to diss those people who are, clearly they're going to be all over Instagram today, posting, my mom's an inspiration, my daughter's an inspiration. That is great. We have Mother's Day. We have their birthdays, Christmas, to give them all that love and respect. I see your face right now. Maybe you don't agree. Like Carrie, I know your wife, very inspirational
I'm not getting
woman.
I get what you're saying.
I want to see people posting about people they're not directly connected to that inspire them who are women.
There you go. Yeah. I love it. What a show today. An inspiring group of people. We want to hear what you took away from this. Talk at RyanJesperson.com is where you can find us. Of course, you can use our hashtag RealTalkRJ. Thanks to everybody who helped us hit 10,000 subscribers on YouTube yesterday. We'd love for you to join that group. Hit like and subscribe and share this interview or this show with people. The live studio audience loves it. With people who you think the content might resonate with. Coming up on tomorrow's show, we're going to talk to journalist Moira White, and she's been doing work for the Tyee. Her story on health benefits and savings and a new free contraceptive reception plan that the province of BC is rolling out. Plus, she did a fact check on that legal cocaine story. Moira will bring us up to speed on that. And we're going to talk to Grand Prairie's Mayor Jackie Clayton about why she thinks it's the best move for her city to get its own police force away from the RCMP. That's coming up on Thursday's Real Talk. We'd love to see you there.
Real Talk is hosted by Ryan Jesperson. Executive Producer Josh Dunford. Technical Producer John Hicks. General Manager Katie Cook-Chivers. Account Coordinator Lawrence Derlego. Human Resources Lena Shepard. Website Design Mike Johnston. Voiceover by me, Carrie Skelton. Real Talk's editorial board is Supriya Dwivedi, Ahmed Ali, Brandy Morin, Ann Castleman, Corey Hogan, Harmon Candola, Catherine O'Neill, and Chris Henderson. Member Emerita, Julie Rohr. Real Talk is recorded in Edmonton, Alberta on Treaty 6 territory, the traditional and ancestral territory of the Cree, Dene, Blackfoot, Saulteaux, and Nakota Sioux, home to the Métis settlements and the Métis Nation of Alberta. Real Talk is a relay project. For more, check out ryanjesperson.com.